guys and girls, and welcome to episode 181 of the F.Reality Podcast. We've got some hot and juicy VR news to share with you all this week. We're going to be discussing our thoughts on the latest tease from something new from HTC. PSVR made a comeback with 6 new PSVR titles coming soon. We'll give you our thoughts on the Climb 2 on Oculus Quest, and we discuss the VR industry from the perspective of someone ingrained in the traditional gaming scene with Alex from LowSpecGamer. To round up the show, Nathia's got some new releases for you to look forward to next week. But for now, let me introduce you to the team and find out what's been their highlight of the week this week. And also, let us know what you thought was your highlight in the chat so we can read out some of your recommendations too. So, first up, this mad lad can climb up a skyscraper in a flash. He has no fear when it comes to heights, and he just loves the feel of Lycra. It's the amazing Spider Nathie. How you doing, dude?
Yeah, I'm doing great, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for the beautiful introduction. I'm your
You're
friendly neighborhood Nathie. If you need my help, call me. I'll come. I'll swing around in my Lycra leotard or something. And, I'm going to save you.
Don't put that image in my head now, Nathie, please.
I was super impressed, by the way, with your the climb video. You did it super fast.
Yeah, but still in an elegant way too, right?
Elegant and fast. Yeah, of course.
I was just, so elastic when I
You were jumping around like a madman.
Yeah, and I actually got to beat my own score after that again, because I was able to finish the first city level of the climb in 3 minutes, but I was able to do it in 2 minutes and 59 seconds.
Wow, is that like a record on the leaderboard at the moment?
Well, I'm sure it's now gone. I mean, people are going nuts about high scores. But I was the number one for a while. But
before the game released, of course.
Well, before the game released, yeah. But also after the game released.
Oh, okay.
Because the scores did disappear after that, so I had to reclaim my the top.
Yeah, the throne.
But it's we're gonna talk about it later. It's a good workout for sure, especially if you're gonna speedrun it.
Yeah.
Besides that, I then decided to go back into Robinson the Journey. I wanted to do that for a while because a lot of people have no idea what that game was all about. I think a lot of people have forgotten about it, but I felt this urge of maybe reintroducing it to people now. But I played it on the Oculus Store. It's a game made by Crytek too. The Climb is based on that game in a way. I have to say it was quite rough, but not in the sense of necessarily what it looked like. It didn't look like amazing anymore. Like I knew the game first, because Crytek is all about, fidelity and stuff. But the gameplay mechanics were a bit outdated. Sometimes I got stuck at parts where I was walking around, and also I couldn't change my moving speed. So before you finish that game, it's gonna be a while just because of the fact how fast you run. But the fact you have this, because you have a sidekick dinosaur in this game, it's a dinosaur game, is just amazing. And we talked about this before, having a sidekick in a VR game is great. I still thought that Higgs, the robot that also assists you from the air, is annoying. He was always annoying, but it almost felt like they were just waiting in this time capsule to meet me again. I felt kind of nostalgic. You know what I mean? And I also felt it was almost my duty to bring these characters back to life again. I really felt that way. It's so weird. I was like, you guys are still in here? You were waiting for me to, that's how good this game was when I played it back then. Yeah. And then I tweeted about it, and Crytek actually liked it because someone said, hey, wouldn't it be awesome to have a dinosaur themed climb, or a DLC to that? And they like that. So maybe, who knows, we're going to see Robinson the Journey make a little bit of a comeback in some, because I mean, if we think about the Climb now after Climb 1 and 2, it would be cool to kind of have something sci-fi or something that doesn't necessarily exist. I think that would be great. So who knows? Time will tell. Yeah.
Nice. Are you going to be releasing a video of Robinson the Journey on the channel?
Well, I found it challenging to record it properly, so I might have to, test out some more stuff. I might try the Steam build as well. But what a lot of people don't know is that they added a motion controller support later down the road, because it was first a gamepad only title. But now you can also. Yeah, true. Yeah. Yeah, it's weird, right? Like I played that with an Xbox controller, and I was also immersed in that way. But it's funny watching it back now. Me like trying to be a little bit in this room scale area, holding my controller like that. Yeah, it's strange how times fly, and it's not that long ago. It's not that long ago. So
Not really. No.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that. Look forward to your video because I don't think I've ever played it, so
No?
I should maybe go back and try it out. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
I remember you guys talking highly of it back in the day, but I never tried it.
Yeah,
so-
it was it originally launched on the PlayStation. It was like an exclusive for a while, and then it came to Steam and Oculus. Yeah.
Nice
Great
recommendation.
game.
Robinson the
very
Journey.
visual as well.
Cool. So next up, he baffles us with science and doesn't play well with others. He's a lovable rogue with a big brain. It's the one and only Rowdy VR. How you doing, dude?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I've had a very busy week, but I actually did something completely different this week. This week. Since the COVID lockdown, I've been having a hard time just finding some time to relax. I spend like 12 to 14 hours looking at a screen and like getting into more gaming and virtual reality than is sometimes very very hard. So one of the things that I really picked up during the lockdown was starting to read again. So I've been reading all kinds of different things from like textbooks up until fantasy novels. As a kid, I was a big fan of reading fantasy novels, so I kind of dove back into that a little bit, and you'll get the link with VR in just a minute because the book that I just this week finished was called it's the first of the Stormlight Archive. Does that ring a bell with anyone?
No.
And if I say the first part is called the Way of Kings, does that ring a bell with any of you?
That sounds like Lord of the Rings to me.
Well, I mean, it's not, but there was a VR game that was made not that long ago. Not that long ago for us. It's probably a very long time ago. But it was a VR game called The Way of Kings, which was a representation of what the book was about, because they were going to release back then, I believe, the second book, which is called. I forgot the name. I think they were going to release a second book, and they, in order to hype that up a little bit, what they did was they made a VR game around that. It was very short. It was like maybe half an hour experience, but it was visually very beautiful, but the game was trash. Like it had nothing to do with the book. A lot of people, because I played that back then on the channel, a lot of people were pissed at me for some reason because this guy doesn't even read the book. Like they expect me to read a book of like 1,300 pages before I play a VR game, of course. So back then I hadn't read it, but now I finished it and I really, really enjoyed it. And I find it kind of cool that it's like this. Normally it's the other way around. You read the book and then, you say, you get excited for a VR adaptation or like a movie or something like that. But for me, this was the other way around now. So I actually got to do the VR adaptation first. I don't know if people in the chat remember that one. I'm sure there's a few.
Okay, what are you doing in this game? Because I also don't remember it. Maybe I do, but...
Yeah, so actually it has very little to do with the book. You do play a character from the book called Kaladin, and he has a little like a sprite, something that like follows him around, which is a little girly fairy kind of thing.
A sprite. I thought like a sprite that you can, the sprite you can drink. like
yeah,
a magical
almost Nathan. Keep trying. Keep trying.
Yeah.
But you are in like this kind of area. I'm not going to spoil too much because for people who still want to read the book, but it's a place in the book. You're there and you need to just like wander around a little bit. Then you need to climb to a plateau and you start to fight some creatures. And that's when the game ends, which is, I mean, none of it takes really place in the book. It's kind of like a weird kind of setting. The story is not really there. The representation of the people is not correct. The voices are probably feel incorrect as well. It's very weirdly done. It was basically just done in order to build some hype around like the book release, which I find weird because I don't expect a lot of people playing VR games to be like, like now I'm going to read this book that I first need to read the first 1,300 pages on, and then I need to go to the second book to read another 1,300 pages. But I mean, it worked for me, so, maybe I'm wrong.
So you're going to continue the series?
Yeah, for sure. I really enjoyed this book. It's written by Brandon Sanderson. And also, I believe, because there are like some words going around about a movie adaptation, since he claimed the rights back for that. So I do think that in the future, we'll probably see a movie adaptation for it. And if you're into fantasy kind of stuff, like very much like Lord of the Rings and other things like that, it's very much in that particular style with like huge battles that take place, and it's very like the kind of writing is very descriptive. So, sometimes it's like 20 pages just describing a certain scene, which I particularly really enjoy because it fuels that imagination that you have. And it's a nice way of like doing something different than like playing a VR game or playing a game or even watching a movie, because it's something else. Of course, I'm still staring at one single thing. Just this time it's like either a tablet or a book. But at least it's not like my computer screen. So I move around the house a little bit at least.
And just remind us of the name again.
So it's called The Way of Kings. And the series is called The Stormlight Archive.
Cool. Nice recommendation. Something a bit different there for you to check out. So next up, we have a special guest joining us this week. This guy is a YouTuber, a writer, a public speaker, and he'll teach you everything you need to know about how to play high-end PC games on an Intel Core Potato. It's Alex from LowSpecGamer. Welcome to the show, dude.
Hi, thank you for having me. In terms of highlight, and I've been racking my brain, I think I have something that is relevant to the podcast in a weird way, which is my girlfriend has started using the Oculus Quest 2 on her own volition, which is odd. She's not the gamer type, and I just let her in the living room, and I have caught her using it like a couple of times, which was very unexpected.
That's awesome.
In that process, she almost hit me while playing, so, which I believe is a rite of passage for anyone trying VR for the first time. So that was a highlight.
Nice. What are our favorite experiences or games to play?
Unsurprisingly, so far is Beat Saber and Pistol Whip.
Yeah, two classics there. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I think Beat Saber is one of those games that you could give to anyone and they'll just have a blast. Regardless of age, gender, if they're a gamer or not, they all just love it and pick it up. Yep. Yeah, nice. Well, great to have you on the show. Looking forward to your insights on some of the topics that we're going to be discussing today. Let's get into what the chat has been playing and their sort of highlights this week.
Yes. So What the UK has been playing Fox with Zim, Fox Machine, right?
Oh, yeah. Great. Yeah. I saw him streaming that this week.
I heard that completely wrong, Athi. I'm sorry. Never mind.
Okay. Sure. And he went for a drink with, who do you think it is? It's a creature who likes vodka. No? Jeff?
Oh,
and it's not Jeff Keighley.
No.
It's another Jeff. Jeff from...
the Jeff.
The Jeff, yeah.
It's his birthday soon.
True, yeah, that's right. Right, yeah. He said that lots of bottles got broken and it wasn't pretty.
No.
Yeah,
Did he end up in the crusher?
I don't know if you can... Yeah, you have two decisions, right? I don't want to spoiler it for people, but...
you don't have to.
No, you don't have to. You have two options there. Then we have gaming science teacher who has attended Microsoft Ignite in Altspace and checked out Puzzling Places on App Lab.
Yeah, I love Puzzling Places. They just updated it as well. More puzzles.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Is there already a puzzle of you that you can put together of your head?
My face. No, it's coming.
That would be fun though, like having faces of like all these people,
Yeah, that would be
fun. Yeah. And then we have Limit, who has been playing a bunch of Hyperdash on Rift S.
Nice.
So much fun. Dave the Psycho has played The Climb 2. He says it's underwhelming, but we'll find out if that's the truth later down the road in the show. And he also played Luna. I think this is a cinematic kind of experience, an animation. It's been a long time. Something with a bird, as far as I know. But it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Check it out. And then we have Hussein, who is on a mission to play a backlog of games on the Oculus Go and then sell it. He already played Wrong Voyage and Spark of Light so far.
Nice.
What was your favorite Go title?
I just loved Oculus Rooms on Go. We've talked about this many times on the show. Yeah. What was the one that that Zim loved? Was it Shallows or something like that? The boat one?
The boat one.
It was like a boat management game. I can't even remember what it's called.
Boat management game?
Yeah, you was like a captain of a ship and you had to manage your crew, had different bits in there. The chat will know what it is. I think it was called Shallows or something similar like that. Zim loved that one, but that's a good Go game if you want to go and check that out. Augmented Empire, that was a really cool one. Kind of like XCOM sort of style, turn-based strategy. That was really fun. I love that game.
I still think that's just, They Suspect Nothing was my favorite game. It was just super funny and it looked nice and it had a nice vibe to it.
Bryant Foster in the chat says it was Narrows, not Shallows.
Narrows.
Narrows. Yeah. Another great one on Go is Esper. Go check that one out as well.
Yeah. Rao, do you have any others to add to the list?
No. Continue on.
Oculus Go.
I think the most thing that I did on the Oculus Go was always the the Oculus rooms, like Mike said. I think that is even a feature I miss now in Oculus Quest and regular Oculus.
Yeah.
Just being able to play Monopoly with just some friends in a room was just the best thing ever.
Why even launching a game.
I don't know. We've said that many times.
So many times.
Let's not get
we beat the same drum every episode, which brings us back. My highlight this week was the Climb 2, but like Nathan said, we're going to be talking about that later on in our sort of review sort of discussion. So stay tuned for that. So let's get into the news. But of course, before we get into the news, I want to thank the sponsor of this week's show, and that is, of course, VAL, the Virtual Athletics League. VAL are currently running the VR Winter Games, which kicked off on the 19th of February and is the follow-up to last year's VR Fitness Summit. The VR Winter Games is a series of online tournaments in which you can enter and compete for your opportunity to win thousands in cash prizes in over 20 VR games. For example, this week you can compete in 11 table tennis. Also, qualifiers have begun for Ninja Legends and Star Shaman, and there's a Gleam giveaway for Pistol Whip as well. So if you want to find out more about the tournaments, how to enter the games and the cash prizes, check out the website onearena.gg, which has all the details, and links are in the description down below.
Great.
Yeah, awesome.
Right. So first bit of news, juicy news as well. And this is from HTC. As this week they tweeted from the official HTC Vive account a picture of a Vive logo while saying, "It's your move." This has caused some speculation across the VR community that HTC could be teasing a new headset coming in the near future. Now, this might make sense, as you might remember back in September last year on episode 156 of the podcast, we talked about some leaked specs of a standalone Vive headset which appeared on Geekbench. For those unfamiliar, Geekbench is kind of this benchmarking program to test performance of PCs and mobile devices. And it seemed that someone was testing out the new hardware in the form of a new Vive headset, and the results were uploaded to the site, which were then inadvertently made public. And I don't know if that was kind of like some marketing ploy to get someone talking about it, or if it was accidental. No one really knows. But it was interesting nevertheless. Geekbench, are you familiar with Geekbench, Alex? I'd imagine this is the kind of thing in your
You will be surprised how often unreleased computer parts are leaked because of Geekbench. I think the box that you have to uncheck in order to not upload your results is probably the most it's one of the best journalists in this industry. Just that little box, that little option, or whoever actually included that into the program in the first place.
Nice. So Geekbench is the place to be for hardware leaks. There you have it. So on this Geekbench upload, the specs showed that this was a Vive Focus device, and it was called the Vive Focus XR2 because it featured a Qualcomm XR2 chipset, 6 gigabytes of memory, and was also running Android 10. And of course, we know that the XR2 chipset is the same chip that powers the Quest 2, which also has 6 gigabytes of memory. So even back then, it was kind of rumored that this was going to be competition for the Quest 2. And I'm wondering now that they're finally sort of teasing something on their sort of official social platforms that maybe we're up for, some more information imminently. But what do you guys take on this? Like, what do you think? Do you think we're in for new hardware? Do you think this is just a new head strap or something completely different? What do you guys think?
That would be something, right? They just like, hey, we tease something. It's a head strap. Surprise!
Or like a turning table, like a turning table.
Yeah, the spinning turning table with the Vive Cosmos on was like the worst marketing I've ever seen of any VR company. But
we still remember it. So then
we still remember. We still talk about it.
There you go.
Yeah.
So bad it's good.
Yeah, I know.
It must be. Sorry, go ahead, Alex.
When was the last time HTC released a headset?
So it was the Vive Cosmos, which
Years
was a bit of a disaster, and the Vive Cosmos Elite. Sadly, it was kind of lackluster because it had pretty bad tracking, pretty bad controllers. It was a medium sort of price point in the market. You had the Index on the high end, obviously Quest 2 on the low end. It kind of sat in the middle, but didn't really satisfy either market. And as it stands right now, actually the Cosmos currently holds just 2% of all Steam VR users using the headset on Steam, which is a massive difference when you consider 13% of VR users on Steam still use the original Vive. So
I remember the time when like HTC was like releasing too many headsets. You remember we had like 7 headsets in like a couple of months, like the Pro Eye and the Pro, like with that Ferrari logo, whatever that was, the car
McLaren
racing
edition.
one.
Yeah.
And then you had like the Vive, the regular Vive Pro. Then you had you had so many different kind of versions that were all of a sudden coming out, and then it was like radio silence. Nothing anymore.
Yeah, because the Vive Cosmos was their plan was to make this a modular headset, right? Where the faceplate was the main thing to upgrade or downgrade based on your own preferences. Interesting concept.
I like that concept.
Definitely worked. Where the base model was just the Vive Cosmos, where it was inside out. Then you had Vive Cosmos Elite, where it did lighthouse tracking. So you would slap a different, and there was another one, but maybe with more cameras or something. I don't know. What was
the problem with the Elite was that it used the original Vive ones.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There was a very strange combination of like old base stations, and it was a bit. Yeah, they tried to get rid of their old stock, basically.
It seemed that way, certainly, yeah. But mistakes were made with the Cosmos for sure, Alex. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see if they've learned any lessons from that release. And, hopefully they're going along a hybrid headset where, it is standalone, but can be connected to Steam VR and maybe Viveport. That would certainly be the way I would want it to go.
Well, it depends on where they want to go. I mean, if they, I think enterprise or consumer, both ways, that it has to be an all-in-one VR headset nowadays. It's just the standard. You can't be releasing a PC VR headset anymore that doesn't do both. That's a no-go. And what if they are going to do it for consumers? It should be a headset, first of all, with solid tracking, because, well, last time they weren't able to make that happen. They need to make content, like really decent content, and also do more releases along the way, like every month, like a new game or something. And next to that, like an interface that is amazing, software that is good, maybe introduce their subscription service they already had, Viveport, and make it an option, or make it a part of the headset. The price needs to be, it's not going to be cheaper than the Quest, and I understand they can't do that, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. If you can offer something good for that in return. I mean, the fact that you don't need a Facebook account is already one sales point they have. Everyone has that sales point outside of Facebook. It's a free one you get, But yeah, I don't know. I'm sure it's going to be a Vive focus thing, but hopefully they looked at the Western market, what they want, and release it there, because the Vive Focus that they had in China, I mean, it worked. It was pretty good, but it wasn't necessarily something that would fit in the, on the other side of the world.
I am kind of curious, like, what kind of price point they're going to make this available, because we already know that they're not going to be able to match like the Oculus pricing, just because Oculus, undersells their headsets. And HTC has always had the reputation of like, selling them for a bit more money, which makes sense because they don't have they still need to recoup those R&D costs for their headsets. So I don't know, what kind of price point do you guys think that this will come in at if it is a new headset?
If I might add a comment there, like before even hypothesizing on a price, I think the complicated part is not just that the Quest comes at a lower price due to Facebook backing, but also that they can do that out of the expectation of having a closed control platform in a way similar to what consoles do.
Yeah.
So what, as Nathi very clearly said, and I completely agree with, they have to do something that is hybrid, or at least has a standalone mode, because it has become the standard. But the problem with that is that if you create an entire new ecosystem, then you have to convince developers to port games there. You have to convince users to actually buy into your ecosystem, and they're coming in late against a competitor that's bigger than them. So unless they offer something that is like radically better, it's an uphill climb. But I'm actually curious to see that, because I will be surprised if it's less than $500. And if around that price point is like, okay, it's the cost plus having to buy all the games again, plus an unproven new marketplace and a new ecosystem where you're going to throw money at, it's a hell of a risk for a consumer. And just not having that link to your Facebook account is an advantage, but it isn't that much of an advantage to compensate the massive price difference.
Yeah, what I'm hoping is, obviously, because like the rumors was from the Geekbench leak was that it was an Android-based headset, and if it is Android, then hopefully that means that maybe porting games that are already available on Quest will be an easy process to a new headset. So if that is the case, then maybe you might get the developers shifting over and just saying, well, if we can release on another platform, and just opens it up to another audience potentially. But it's whether or not that not having that social media login requirement will be worth the extra $200 or £200 extra that it will be for this new hardware potentially.
Well, the thing is, and this is what we spoke about with Nick Mitchell, is that the Oculus Quest can't be sold in China. So this headset, that's already an advantage on its own, where
good point.
It can be sold easily in China already. But it does feel that this is HTC's last chance to do something, not in terms necessarily of how much money they still have left, but also reputation wise. Like the Vive Cosmos was a mistake, and happens. I mean, I haven't seen many headsets really fail on the the hardware side and the software side at the same time. Usually it's one of the two. I think I want them to work with Valve like they did with the Vive, because they need Valve. I like the Vive Cosmos proved to us that they might not be able to make their own hardware, but that's just based on one mistake. Maybe they learned from it and have returned now with something better. It's still possible, but I think HTC, their weakness is the software. Like as Alex said, the ecosystem. That's the problem. Like Viveport is nice, but Viveport is just a subscription service. But if they have an ecosystem there that works for everyone, amazing. But I don't know if they are able to do that. They had a studio where they made games, for their headsets. We had Ready Player One, right, where they made this environment. They had the IP. They have made some smart decisions, but then weren't able to really make content that was immersive and was just great. And then on the marketing side, of course, same with this again. Yeah, I don't know. Like they seem to be always promoting or a headset to consumers that is for business. Or the other way around. And they don't seem to realize that, because from China, they have certain ideas. They send them to the American company. This is what you need to say, but it doesn't translate well and people get confused again. So I hope that they are able to kind of, but some people left from HTC, like Rickard Steiber was a great, frontman for them with Viveport. He left. Of course, we still have Elvin. I'm like, use him as the guy who is going to promote this, but I don't know. I really want them to still stay in the game, because the Vive, when that came out, was a great headset. It was amazing, but it was in collaboration with Valve, and that's something you need to understand. That's where a lot of the success came from.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's a really good point. It kind of got me thinking about, if this is a new standalone headset, what the name will be. Will it be a Vive Focus? Because they said in the tweet, like, it's your move. And they also responded to some tweets saying, you'll have to keep following our movements. And it kind of made me think, oh, maybe they're going to call this the HTC Move or the Vive Move or something like that.
I think Vive, they're still going to stick with Vive. It would also be stupid to get away from that name. But yeah, sounds like a fine name, but yeah, you really need to.
That's what we thought originally, that the Quest was going to be called, right?
That's true. Yeah, that's what I had my money on. So I have been wrong many times before. But of course, this is all just speculation at the moment. Nothing's been confirmed. It's just a picture of the Vive logo right now. Hopefully, maybe next week we'll get some more information, or if not, an official release or an announcement at least, saying that they're bringing a new headset to the market. And as soon as we have that information, we'll obviously update you on the show. But I thought it was worth mentioning anyway. But yeah, would you be excited for a headset from HTC, Alex, or are you happy with what you've got right now?
I say I'm extraordinarily skeptical that they can provide anything that is of value to anyone that is not like the hyper enthusiast. I certainly hope they do, because I'm not happy with the having VR the success of VR so linked to whatever Facebook decides to do. But I'm still skeptical.
That's a pretty solid stance.
I do
share
have
that.
I do have well, it's not really a scoop, it's pretty obvious, but I've been kind of informing around a little bit with my Chinese friends. It's definitely a headset. What a surprise.
Okay.
And it exists basically, so you can try it.
Okay.
But if it's any good or not, no one is really telling me. Maybe they just want to wait it out and see when it comes out. But yeah, I just really hope it is a good headset.
Yeah,
something new. Something
we need
different.
competition in the market. That's what we've been asking for.
Well,
This
even
is
if
our
it's
moment.
a small part of the ecosystem where there's a little bit competition there, it's nice to have all kinds of headsets to pick from.
I just hope it's like something completely different, like a headset for your dog or something like that, so you can bring him into VR as well. That'd be epic.
My God. And I think on that note, we should move on. Let's talk about PSVR. We've talked about PSVR a lot just recently. We had the exciting news just recently that PlayStation are working on a PSVR 2 headset for the PS5, and it's likely going to be launching next year. And it seems just recently, to prove that they're not out of the VR market and still committed to PSVR, PlayStation had a day this week announcing some new PSVR content, which will be dropping soon on the original PSVR while you wait for the next gen headset to arrive, which is pretty cool. And I've got no doubt that all this content as well will be like forward compatible with whatever comes next, and you'll get a bit of a hint of that as I go through it. So I'll list the new games that were announced and give a quick synopsis of each one, so you get a bit of a flavor of what they're all about. Some of them are sort of known IPs, some of them are new. So let's start with one that we already know and love, and that is Doom 3. So Doom 3 VR Edition is coming to PSVR later this month on the 29th of March. And this is kind of interesting because we talked about this a few episodes ago on episode 176, that something was leaked by the Australian classification boards that it was a VR Bethesda game in the works, and we were like, "Oh yeah, Doom Eternal's coming to VR."
Oh yeah.
We all got super hyped. It seems like we were completely wrong, and it was probably this game, the Doom 3 VR edition, that was what was leaked on the class.
Now I'm a little bit disappointed for some reason. I don't know why. I was like, I was thinking about Rage. I was like, oh, Rage 2 and VR. Yeah.
I am the complete opposite. When I saw the news, I'm like, fuck yeah, this is so much better that because Doom Eternal, new Doom, in my opinion, doesn't work well in VR because of the format of how just quickly it has to be. But I don't know if you ever played the Doom 3. It's a very moody, slow sort of taking in all the sounds and the sights, and you with your flashlight fighting the demons kind of game. Which and the one time I tried it, I was like, I would love for this to be a VR game. This feels like something that needs to be a VR game. So when this was announced, I'm all in on this. Like that. So, that seems like an excellent idea.
So I don't know if you know this already, Alex. I might blow your mind here a little bit, but there is actually a mod available on SideQuest right now that you can play Doom 3. Yeah, so you can play Doom 3 natively on the Quest via a mod. Yeah, and it's free. So as long as you own Doom 3 via Steam, then you can play it for free on Quest standalone. So if you don't want to invest in a PSVR, then you can play it already. So go. Yeah,
it's a fan-made version of it.
That's the thing. It's going to be, if that's the thing that exists, it's going to be curious to see how well an official port.
Yeah, well, that's the interesting part, because you can already, like with the trailer, you can compare now what it looks like. Bethesda did come, or it wasn't Bethesda who ported it. It was Argiact Studios who made Waddle Home and the game you once played, Mike. I don't remember. Was that other game? But they ported over, so it wasn't. Yeah, I don't know. Mike played it. That's all I know.
Oh, the shooter. I know which one.
Yeah, the shooter where you could heal and stuff, like Mercy.
Can't remember the name.
Over. Yeah, someone is gonna remind us anyway, so it's fine, Mike. They got us. But they ported it over, so it wasn't Bethesda. But if you look at the trailer now already, it's just funny how close Dr. Beef's mod looks like the official one, although they did come up with some other things that Dr. Beef didn't do, but I thought it was a funny coincidence. Honestly, they could have just bought him out. They'd be like, listen, can we use this and just throw it in there? But meanwhile, they were already busy, so I think they started both at the same time.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, I know.
Cool. And it's actually the base game and also the expansions, which are called Resurrection of Evil and The Lost Mission. They're also included in this bundle. And it's also confirmed to have PSVR aim support, which is pretty cool if you still have an aim controller.
Finally, another title that has that. Like,
yeah. It's funny because with all these announcements, I wonder if Zim is kind of upset that he sold all this PSVR gear literally like just a couple of weeks ago. By the way, I didn't mention at the beginning of the show that Zim obviously isn't joining us if you hadn't noticed already.
Wow.
I probably should have said that. He's doing so well off the autobiography he released, the Adventures of Jim Barnaby, that he's shopping for a mansion this weekend. So obviously I'm joking. He's just busy, but he'll be back with us next week.
Okay.
So yeah, the first game in the lineup for PSVR release is Doom 3. The next one is an interesting one called Song in the Smoke. This is a new survival game. It drops players in a beautiful but deadly world full of monsters and mysteries. You'll have to track monsters using their scent and footsteps, all whilst trying to stay alive by scavenging for food and shelter. It's also confirmed to support the PSVR Move controllers. Looks pretty interesting concept, survival sort of horror sort of game. No set release date just yet, but it's planned to release sometime later this year. And I think this is coming exclusively to PSVR.
Okay.
Song in the Smoke.
Looks gorgeous, actually.
Yeah, looks cool. What was the classic survival game?
Ark?
No. I can't even remember now what it's called. The one where you're a little man and you have to survive the night with a little fire.
Don't Starve?
Don't Starve. That's the one. It almost seems like a VR version of that.
Yeah. I want to say Jumanji VR for some reason, but
Jumanji. Don't.
Dear God.
So that is Song in the Smoke.
Cool.
This one I'm actually very, very excited about. And this is a game called Fracked. Out of all the announcements, this is the one I'm most hyped for. This is made by Endreams, the same studio that brought us Phantom Covert Ops. This is going to be a run and cover shooter set in a snowy location that will have you skiing, running, climbing, base jumping, and zip lining, all whilst taking down a new enemy known as the Fracked. You can also pull yourself up over cover to sort of like, a bit arcadey kind of shooting mechanic where you can pull yourself up and down over cover to get shots on your enemy, which looks pretty cool. And apparently it's going to be optimized also to run on PS5 as well, if you happen to have the PS5 console. And just to give you a little scoop as well, I played this as a very, very early tech demo.
Should we buy it, Mike?
Well,
That's the first question. That's what people started. Like, you played it? Should I buy it?
Should I buy it? Well, from what I played, it was very, very early. They hadn't even applied any of the textures to the levels. It was just basically, I think they call it grey boxing or something similar. It's like the dev term. They grey boxed all these levels, so you had the level design laid out, but they hadn't added the textures yet. But they certainly had the main gameplay mechanics where you can use cover and pull up above it and shoot, which was a lot of fun. So yeah, I really enjoyed my time with their early prototype, so I've definitely got high hopes for this one.
Yeah. And they're the ones who made Phantom Covert Ops as well, which is a great game.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
And
they know what they're doing.
Shooty Fruity.
And Shooty Free. Yeah. This is exclusive to PSVR, it seems. So don't expect to see this one on any other headsets or consoles or systems. Yeah. And it looks like it's going to be dropping sometime this summer.
Well, when I saw these releases and I saw they were coming to PlayStation VR, I was like, I'm okay. I'm okay with the fact it's coming to PlayStation VR, because the only thing I see nowadays is coming to Quest. This is coming to Quest, coming to Quest this. I'm like, this is amazing news. Finally, something to play on the PSVR or a reason to return to the PlayStation VR. And I honestly think these games that are getting announced, it's not just because PlayStation VR is suddenly, no, it's also to make themselves ready for the PSVR 2. These are games that are going to get remastered for PlayStation 5 as well. So they're going to run on so all these games they might just release early while the PlayStation VR 2 isn't there yet, but they are in the background ready to go for the next hardware.
100%. Yeah. 100%.
And that's good. That's good that they're releasing it earlier, so we don't have to wait for new hardware.
Yeah, I agree. And we've had some amazing exclusives on PlayStation. Blood and Truth, Astrobot, Resident Evil, Iron Man. We had some really great games on the system. Yeah. Have you ever tried PSVR, Alex?
I'm actually, this is the piece of news that I'm more fascinated from this week, particularly because if there's if there's a headset that could potentially do something interesting for the industry, to me as an outsider, is the PlayStation VR. In fact, when the original came around, you probably understand this better than anybody, but at least to casual observers, there was all this hype of, oh, it's VR and a console, and a mainstream console, like this one's it. And then the headset itself is, at least to my opinion, a little bit, the setup is a bit of a pain.
Yeah, I agree.
And it comes with issues that bring that. So when I read this news, I'm like, oh yeah, this one, they probably been planning this one from day one instead of making it some weird add-on, and this one's going to be like much easier to install. And that idea makes me excited. I own one. It's there somewhere because it's
on the
such
Epic.
it's in the closet somewhere. It's the setup is so painful, at least to me, that I barely ended up using it, even though, as you guys already mentioned, the exclusive games that were there, stuff like the Iron Man game, were good. Like the quality of the software was already there. I just felt it needed to get over that entry layer. So if there's one headset now that I feel could change things from just a Quest Facebook dominated world, it's this one. So please don't fuck it up, Sony. Please.
No, I totally agree. And this is why I was so excited about the news when it dropped, because it took me by surprise initially. And I was just excited that we've got this huge player that's coming to the market that's going to potentially do something to disrupt the industry right now. So yeah, I totally agree with what you say. The next game that was announced was I Expect You to Die 2, obviously the sequel to the original I Expect You to Die from Shell Games. We're all a big fan of that game, so definitely looking forward to more of that. It looks like this one's going to take off from where the original game ended, so sending you back into the world of danger and espionage, taking on sort of more deadly escape room puzzles and hilarious action. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that. That's also going to be coming to Steam VR and likely coming to Quest and Quest 2 as well. So
I hope that they have an equally nice soundtrack as they had in the first one.
yeah,
the soundtrack
that was a really
amazing.
Fun game. The submarine level was my favorite. If you've ever played the original,
sure.
Next up is an interesting one. It's called Zenith. This is an MMO RPG in VR. It's got beautiful handcrafted environments, a deep combat system, free movement to explore and climb anything in this kind of vast open world. And it seems to be aimed at kind of scratching that itch of a true MMO RPG in VR, which is a genre that we only have a handful of options in right now. They sort of have these epic raids that you can go on with your friends, big world events, sort of, to do it with your friends and also make new friendships online. And also you can choose a class that kind of suits your own personal play style. So it kind of encourages you to team up with people that use other classes and work together as this kind of united team. So is it going to be a really interesting concept, a bit like kind of like Final Fantasy Online or kind of like a bit World of Warcrafty?
Yeah.
So looking forward to seeing how this one hits with the kind of MMO community and if they dig this one or not.
It's ambitious for sure. I also saw they're kind of getting into that, kind of Kickstarter vibe, because this stuff is very expensive to make, because it's, it usually becomes huge. And it kind of takes over what Nostos tried to do, with their game that we never heard anything of ever again. They might still work on it, but
they're very optimistic, I get your point. Nostos kind of,
but there's no, like, what I'm saying is there's no real like MMO yet that, we had this one game again, like we seem to be forgetting about games today. Where you could have like these different classes, like you could be a mage and you could be an archer. Do you remember the?
Yeah, we played it. I can't remember the name. No,
but it's on every platform. You can remind us again. I'm sorry, chat. I don't know why we are so.
It's been a long week.
Freaking hell.
But just to let you know, Zenith will be coming to both PSVR and Steam VR later this year, so it will be coming to PC as well.
Okay, cool.
The final official announcement came from Vertigo Games, of course, with After the Fall. This is a game that we've talked about for a long time. It's been in development.
Orbis VR.
Orbis VR. Well done.
That was the one.
Well done, chat. Our saviors. So yeah, we've been talking about After the Fall for a long time. In fact, many of us have even played it at events. I think we've all played it at this point, early versions of it at least. Last year, around November, Vertigo announced that they were delaying the game again to this year. So now they've give us another announcement that is coming this summer, it seems, so coming this summer to PC VR and PSVR. We don't know if it's coming officially to Quest yet. It hasn't been confirmed, so we'll have to wait for that. But they also said that it was coming to yet to be announced VR platforms. So that could mean
that's obvious.
A new Quest. It could mean a new HTC headset. It could mean PSVR 2. We don't know for sure.
Since I was this crazy guy, and I'm sure everyone forgot about this except me, was that I said that Arizona Sunshine was coming to the Quest. You remember that? And people saying like I was freaking insane. Yeah. And I was like, it's not possible. I had to eat a head strap. Yeah, you're right. I had to eat a head strap. In the end, you all had to eat a head strap. Just saying. But now with this new one, I predict that one is coming to the Quest too. Okay. But of course, that's kind of where they want to go with it, anyways, because that's where the money is next to PlayStation VR. But I don't know. I don't really know what to think about this game. I played it at E3 in what was it, 2019? I remember. I played the co-op experience with one of their developers on Rift S. Back then, Rift S or PC VR was still relevant. Kind of. Yep. Nowadays is a bit different, but I'm sure it's still, as you said, it's still coming to PC. But it didn't feel to me like something completely wow or mind blowing. The world looked amazing. They had some characters and things like that, but I wasn't. Yeah, it was a bit arcadey in the way you played it. You could just collect all these items by just clicking and stuff, and it wasn't. It was kind of this arcade feel to it, and the new trailer that they showed is kind of trying to be the Left 4 Dead of, they're really trying to. I wish they went for a trailer where they actually showed some new gameplay mechanics, like this is what we have been working on. I mean, CGI is nice, and Vertigo has the money to do it, but if they have the money to do that, then also release an extra trailer where you show us some actual gameplay, especially if you have been gone for that long and you don't really tell us anything. Because this game needs some good marketing to sell, I feel like.
If you're not familiar with this game, I should give you the deets on it. It's a 4-player co-op shooter set in the frozen remains of LA, where you'll be working together to fend off undead creatures known as the Snowbreed. And like Nathie said, it felt very arcadey when we played it first time, but we did give that development that feedback to the developers, so hopefully they understand where we're coming from with that, and I'm sure that was the sort of criticism across the board when people played it originally. We want a hardcore Left 4 Dead game in VR, and this is probably the closest thing we've got to it. So let's hope they nail it with this one. I'm certainly excited for it still. So that is after the fall. And before we round it up with the PSVR stuff, it's also worth mentioning that aside from the official list, the developers behind Farpoint, Impulse Gear, also announced that they're working on a new VR title, although very little is known about it so far, other than it's coming out later this year.
Didn't they say it had something to do with Farpoint, or was that just a complete rumor?
The image that I've seen floating around certainly seems like it's kind of set in the same universe, sci-fi kind of
spiders.
Maybe sci-fi space spiders. Maybe.
I think
I would welcome a sequel to Farpoint. I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, it was a great game.
The story was pretty decent.
Yeah, and PSVR aim support as well.
Indeed.
So.
Please, yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of interesting that all these games are kind of heating up. Like you say, they're kind of releasing them, making sure people still know that the PSVR is relevant. And obviously, I'm sure they'll all be forward compatible on the new hardware as well.
They're warming up their users that they already have to buy the new hardware because, dude, I played Iron Man VR, finished the whole thing. If they tell me, listen, we remastered it and this is what we have updated, this is what you will be able to do with the new hardware, I'm like, fuck it, I play it again. I don't care.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
On a next gen headset.
Static too. Like, you can play static now with our new controller. Sure, I'll try it again.
Yes, please. More static from Tarsier Studios. I'd love that. So to round up the news, I think we should have a little chat about The Climb 2. Our thoughts on it. I think Nathan and I are the only two that played it this week.
Correct.
Am I right?
Yeah.
I thought I saw Alex climb around, on a skyscraper somewhere in Dubai. Wasn't it you? No? Oh, okay.
Have you played the original Climb, Alex?
I haven't. I have seen your videos about it, though.
Yeah. So The Climb 2 launched this week, which is obviously the direct sequel for the original Climb from Crytek. Nathan and I played it. Maybe you should go. Do you want to dive into your thoughts?
Well, you can kick this off if you want.
Okay, sure. So let's just start with the visuals because in terms of gameplay mechanics, it's pretty much the same as the original game with some minor tweaks, right? They've tweaked physics. Yeah. The in terms of like the grip, stamina, and everything else, that's the same. So you'll be familiar with it if you play the original game. Although the chalking mechanics have been they're much snappier, they're much speedier. You can chalk much easier.
Touch up,
to kind of regain your stamina, which is a nice little touch. It does make the gameplay feel a bit easier, though. I don't know if you agree with
True.
that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah.
The original game certainly felt more challenging to me. And when Nathan and I spoke about it earlier this week, we weren't quite sure whether it was just because we were familiar with the original game or just the second one felt
a combination
easier.
of the two, I guess.
I think so. So. In addition to some of these minor tweaks, you've also got 2 new environments. You've got the North and the City, which go alongside the Bay, Alps, and Canyon environments, which are lifted from the original game. Although they've not been directly lifted, they're not exactly the same levels. The environments have been tweaked, and there are some new kind of interactive elements embedded in the levels. So you've got like ropes, ladders, slides, snakes, which bite you.
Yeah, the like every map feels more alive, and there are more quick time events, something that the Climb one also had, but was rare to happen, because I'm sure they were back then not sure if they wanted to introduce people who are new to VR to that kind of stuff. Now they seem to be more, confident about that. So yeah, the worlds itself look more alive. There's more to see. There's more to do. So on the side of like looking around, like the atmosphere and stuff, they nailed it. It's amazing. It's beautiful.
Yeah. It's definitely one of the better looking games on Quest 2. Although every now and again I would notice some pop-in textures.
Yeah, they went a little bit too excited with how much they could do. I think they pulled a little bit too far in terms of. But again, this was originally a PC VR game and not a Quest game. So.
It sounds like something that LowSpecGamer should be able to fix, right?
We'll see.
He just deletes the buildings. He deletes everything in the world itself. So you can
it'll just be a potato. You'll be climbing a potato by the end of it.
Fixed.
But yeah, despite the minor issues with some textures, although I think they'll fix that.
I didn't
quickly.
mind them. They're not, game breaking.
No, but when you compare the original game and the new one side by side, you can really tell the amount of effort they've put into these new environments, fleshing them out with wildlife and detail. They do look really nice.
True.
So really, in terms of gameplay, like we said, there's not much different from the original game. You've got new environments, you've got slightly tweaked mechanics. You've also got this asynchronous multiplayer mode where you can race your friends' times and time set on the leaderboards.
But that was on the Climb one as well.
It was, and you'll see
because people talk about it now like it's a new feature. It's the same thing.
No, it's not a new feature. Yeah,
no, it's not new.
You'll see the ghost hands of these players in your game, but you won't be able to like climb with a friend. No. And I think seeing a lot of the reviews, Nathan's reviews, other people's reviews out there, I think the biggest criticism of the game is the fact that there was little innovation in terms of like anything new, anything really exciting, or like a co-op climbing mode. And I think that's pretty much what everyone said when they were reviewing the game. That's what they would have wanted, right? Because any VR game experience is really fun on your own, but when you add a friend to the mix, it just makes it even better, like 10x better. And I think something like that, climbing with a friend, chatting at the same time, racing each other, having moments where maybe they had to jump off a ledge and grab your hand and you had to pull them up. It would have been just so epic.
Yeah, but that's the thing. If you then make the same, then add something new so you can sell it. Like they're now selling it for a full price again of like $30. And there's nothing really new in terms of mechanics. That's where they could like $30 for me is okay, same game, but then with a co-op experience with it, To me, the Climb 2 didn't feel like a new game, a sequel. This was more DLC content than anything else.
1.5 version.
Yeah, they could have just sold this. But of course, if you slap a 2 on it, it sells better because people think it's a brand new game. And they were hyping up this game so much with the city levels that because that was the only thing they were really thriving on. The rest didn't show up anywhere. I think the North had a lot of potential to also be marketed. Yeah. But they only went for the city. But then after the city and the other one you played, then you're like, okay, so what's really new then? So I would say if you played the Climb 1 and you want to buy the Climb 2, you might want to get it. Just watch some gameplay, watch some videos, see what you think about it. If it really feels new to you, you're like, okay, let me get it. But yeah, I would definitely inform yourself. And if you are completely new, of course, don't buy the Climb 1, buy the Climb 2, and don't bother about the first one. You wouldn't want to buy both. Even if there was a bundle, you wouldn't be buying both of them.
There is a bundle. I think it's like 30% off both games in a bundle until the 12th of March.
I will do that.
I totally agree with what you say. Like, skip the first one, go straight to the second one because it is better in most ways.
Oh, yeah. And last but not least, I know we rant about this more, but when I played this on Quest, I was like, I wish I played this on the PC first. I
Yes.
really did.
Yeah.
I really did. Even that, I was like, wow, this runs on the Quest. It's blowing my mind. How is this possible? But they uploaded this trailer with Red Bull and they showed like gameplay from PC. My God.
It looked awesome.
Amazing. Pleasure for the
especially
eyeball.
because like it was a little bit like, especially because it comes from Crytek, it was a little bit like the crisis of VR for like a while. Like, you know, like you would test the, you know, like whether you could run like a lot of VR games, because it was just so heavy on like the amount of textures that they were using and stuff. So it was such a heavy game to be running on a VR headset, the original Climb. And now it feels a little bit of a shame that you don't have that high-end experience in the Climb 2.
Well, and all the trailers they didn't show any Quest. So even Crytek knew that it just didn't look that great on Quest. But then they still showed, because Crytek is all about the high-end stuff. For them, Quest is nice, but that's not their end goal, you know? So yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed. I'm still hopeful it will arrive, because if you see the trailers, it's there. Why would you just use that for marketing purposes only? But I think it's a shame we're now at the point where Oculus Quest gets a release and no one is asking questions anymore about PC VR. You know, they used to have like both releases. You can now play this on Rift and Quest, but Oculus doesn't even want to bother anymore to put Rift at the end of a trailer saying it's coming out, you know? Yeah.
No, you're right.
And there's still a lot of PC users who are willing to play this, but yeah, they don't care. They don't care.
Shame, yeah.
They really don't care.
You are right, because this is the third big game from them that has skipped the PC platform completely. You had this, you had Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge, and you also had Jurassic World Aftermath.
Yeah.
So you're right. You know, if you're a Rift owner, you're probably like pretty upset right now that you're missing out on.
They abandoned the Oculus Rift store. They don't put it there anymore. So yeah.
Sheps in the chat says Mobile Master Race.
Yeah, Mobile Master Race. That's it. Yeah, it's unbelievable. No, but it's super sad. I mean, especially with a game like The Climb. You know, like I personally don't mind that I didn't play Jurassic World not on a PC VR headset, but there should still be different releases. And now it's kind of getting locked away from us to a certain point, and then they might release it later on. Who knows? But
yeah, I know. I totally
sure
agree.
Crytek wants to release it. I'm sure they want to release it on PC.
And I hope they do.
Yeah.
But to kind of summarize our thoughts on it, and I think we both feel the same way about it, is that it is just more of the same. That's not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
If you enjoyed the first one, you'll enjoy the second one. If you haven't played the first one, go for the second one. But check out gameplay first, because some people are saying it's not as action-packed as they probably want it to be, which I think is fair. It's a climbing game after all.
I think what you said before, like, you know, for new consumers, this is amazing. And with the hardware, when we spoke about Quest 2 when it came out, and also the way we have seen Oculus introduce new features, it's a bit of a step back. We have to we reset it a little bit from PC VR. We went standalone. And I think with games, you kind of see that too, because this game is, in my opinion, made for people who are new to VR, to excite them about VR, and not necessarily us who played the first Climb. I think they had this thing in their minds. People don't know what the Climb 1 is. They never played it. They just see the 2. I need to buy the 2. That's it.
Yeah,
like an iPhone.
That's fair.
Well, yeah, kind of.
So that is all the news this week. We've covered a few bits and pieces there. So now let's talk to our guest, Alex from LowSpecGamer. If you're not familiar with his work, he has an excellent YouTube channel where he covers interesting tech and also shows gamers how to play the latest and greatest PC games, such as Cyberpunk 2077 and Doom Eternal on low-spec systems. So if you're kind of sitting in that market where you've got a low-end PC, but you want to play high-end games, go check out his channel. Also, if you've got any questions for us or Alex, then drop them in the chat now and we can read out some of them at the end of the segment before we get into releases for next week. But maybe we should just kick things off, Alex, and maybe just start about how you got into VR, because obviously you're very interested in tech in general.
Correct.
So how did you get into VR, and what was the kind of first headset that kind of brought you into virtual reality?
So my interest in virtual reality started mostly from a technical level, in the sense that from the outside looking in, the VR had such a well-gained reputation for being something that requires such a high-end PC for a lot of reasons, that it obviously made it interesting for me to explore just what was the real minimum requirement for a lot of the stuff out there. And after going through the issues with, the issue at that moment was acquisition cost. It was risky to be like, I'm going to spend this. Was a long time ago to spend like $600-$700 on a headset just for one video to explore about it. So what actually ended up happening is a lot of people were suggesting me the old Windows mixed reality headsets, and during a trip to the US, it was for a BitCon. Yeah, it was for a BitCon US in California. I bought one of those in Amazon US and had it shipped to the hotel. And what ended up happening is that I spent hours that should have been VidCon hours just playing with that damn thing in my hotel room because I was blown away by just how immediately it just kind of worked. And since then, it became not just a test, but I became fascinated by the idea of exploring just the accessibility of it, because I started realizing that for a lot of stuff out there, the barrier, it's easier to technically get into VR than I thought it was. In fact, I'm a little bit surprised that when you were mentioning games that I have covered in terms of video, you didn't mention Half-Life Alyx, because that's in fact one of my favorite. That was an experience to record the video, and it's one of my favorite videos that I have put out, particularly because I was surprised at just how performance friendly that game is. I think the minimum requirements of it is like a GTX 1060, which is it's a GPU that's going to give you issues with like games, AAA normal games that are coming right now, and it can perfectly run that VR game. So, so from that level, it was just the idea of trying to see what was the easiest way to get in. And of course, since those days, things have changed a lot. A lot of headsets have come and gone, and now it's an Oculus-dominated world, or an Oculus Quest-dominated world, to be more specific. And that brings with it its own set of issues. And I guess it's interesting to me just seeing always VR being like in the border of being this thing that everyone's like, oh, this is the year it's going to go mainstream, and it's always like this year.
Yeah,
it's almost there always, and that's something that is fascinating for me to wonder why. What are the barriers for acquisition for people doing that? And every year I think I have a better idea of why that is, and every year I think it's even closer than it was before.
yeah. And it's kind of interesting you mentioned about your Half-Life Alyx video, like playing it on low spec settings, because I did watch it actually, and I never realized that the zombies could be even more terrifying when they look so low poly. It's kind of crazy, really. But I think that's great as well. And have you ever considered doing more videos like that for other VR games, like maybe Medal of Honor, which is also a super high-end VR title?
I had the thing is there's a lack of intersection of stuff that people then more traditional gaming are interested in, and things that are currently in VR. So one thing that I keep telling people over and over again when people ask, oh, why aren't more people jumping into VR, is that as much as I dislike it, a lot of big names matter. Medal of Honor might be a slight exception because it's a more mainstream name out there, but it's not as big as something that might turn the tide.
Yeah.
But did you? Oh God, what was the name of that book? Did you read the History of the Future?
I did, yeah, from Blake J. Harris.
Yeah, in fact, I think you recommended that book to me.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, you did. You absolutely did. So in that book, there's a section in the early story about Oculus where they're struggling to get developers because developers were trying to figure out if to do stuff for Oculus or do stuff for the Ouya console, which is a super funny story in retrospective.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I remember when the Ouya was making the rounds online,
it was huge.
It was huge, and more importantly, I think they did a survey where they were like, "Oh, what games would you be interested to see there?" And they were marketing the whole thing as like an indie game box, and yet I remember seeing that poll in real time, and remembering that the first results were people posting stuff like Mass Effect, Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed. And my point with that being is that people sort of expect to see those recognizable names in order to justify the pain of going in. In fact, the Oculus Quest 2 has been tremendously successful, but simply because of the price point. But a lot of the reason why a lot of people might not even be jumping at that price point is because, you surf through the store and you don't see a lot of things that immediately catch your eye unless you're an existing VR player. And they know this, which is why on the box of you see like Star Wars stuff or stuff that tries to be as recognizable as possible. But that's sort of a chicken and egg issue, right?
Yeah.
A lot of traditional AAA developers are not going to be willing to risk until there's more people, and maybe there's no more people until more people are willing to risk it. So it's a never-ending cycle, which is a shame because like with stuff like the Quest 2, it's so close. The one game that I regret not finding a way to make a video yet, which I will count as a VR game, would be Star Wars Squadrons.
Yes.
Because I started that game just traditionally with a controller, and then I read that I had VR support, and I have it somewhere here, but I bought the freaking flying stick. I found a good sale.
The hotess.
Yeah. I connected that. I put on my Windows Mixed Reality headset, and I tried it for 10 minutes, and it's like, okay, I'm never going to go play this game in non-VR mode ever again. This is a VR game masquerading as something else, but this is a VR game.
You're totally right. Yeah.
And it's beautiful, and that's a Star Wars very high profile game. Like more of that will be kind of needed.
And the funny part is with that game, VR was more of an extra than really the main thing. Well, in the end, there are more people now playing it in VR than people are playing it on a pancake screen. So it shows that in a case of that game, VR is the way to go.
Yeah, exactly. It's a game that from a design perspective, it's just so much better to play on VR. It's not like just a wow effect. It's like literally the premier way to play the game.
Yeah. And I saw your video when you were saying the same thing about non-recognizable big brand names like on the store, but you ended up finding games like Vader Immortal as well, and also Pistol Whip, which you said in your video became like a little bit of a favorite of yours. Did you ever, so now that you've got the Quest 2, do you find yourself trying to convince other gamers to get on board with VR? Like, do you find yourself like shoving a headset on someone and saying, look, you need to try this. This is a game changer?
Yes, but mostly because the headset is so quick to set up. And this is something that I think gets lost when you're not a super enthusiast of a thing, because if you're super into a specific industry, you don't mind going through some issues of setup just to get the cool thing working. But if you're only getting into a thing initially and you don't have a lot of time, like setup time matters. And when I made at the start of this podcast, when I made the whole comment about my girlfriend using my Quest 2, I think the reason why that works, and I think it's a testament to whatever the heck Oculus did with that thing, is that you put it on, you set it up in 5 minutes, and you're playing, and that's impressive to me. And when I show it, when I take it with me and I show it to my parents or friends or whatever, I usually do it from like an idle state because I know they're going to be able to set it up and start playing immediately, and I think that was the biggest barrier of entry, and the thing that most standalone headsets or just headsets in general coming along are going to have to compete with, which is the ease of setup, which is why I mentioned the PlayStation VR thing. Like I want desperately for it to be a plug and play thing that I can just set it up whenever I want to play in my living room and be playing immediately.
Yeah, like the rumor is, or what they stated on their initial blog with the PSVR 2 is that it will be a single connection, wired connection to the PS5. That's the plan.
Please, yes.
So it's likely going to be USB-C, just single connection. That's what I anticipate anyway.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's kind of interesting to see your thoughts on it because, like, I think you're more sort of ingrained on the traditional gaming side. Obviously, you create content for the traditional gaming side as well. When you post these videos, about VR, because obviously it is something that interests you. What is the sort of general reaction from your audience? Are they sort of positive or negative? Because certainly from our perspective in what I would call like the VR bubble, we're very ingrained in this industry. It's very difficult for us to get a perspective from outside it. Particularly around the launch of Half-Life Alyx, you would see like IGN post a video like, this is the new trailer for Half-Life Alyx. A quarter of the comments would be like, this looks amazing. I can't wait to try this in VR. The rest would be like, why is this in VR? I hate VR. You suck, Gabe. Why didn't you bring this game to traditional gamers? You ruined our life.
Honestly, I've never felt so threatened before in the VR scene than when Half-Life Alyx got announced. Man.
Yeah. That's a great example. I think because... Well, I mean, if Half-Life Alyx had been a game that require a $200 that could have worked potentially worldwide with a $200 headset, I think the reaction might have been better. But since a lot of people were like, "Oh, you in order to really play it, you need the super expensive $1,000 index," which, by the way, didn't really turn out like I all my time. I haven't used my Quest 2 to play Half-Life Alyx. Now that I think about it, I should try that. But all my playthrough of it was with my extremely cheap Windows Mixed Reality, and it did fine. It was a great experience.
And especially because Valve has that reputation as well of like, for example, they use like Half-Life to launch Steam, or like to launch like new, like I remember back in the day when it came out, like if you didn't have like the high-end graphics card, which also runs up, you know, your cost tremendously, then you just couldn't play the game either. So Valve has always been that kind of company to kind of push that boundary a little bit further, whether it being like PC technology or being now VR technology.
Exactly, which it was interesting because on this, I think the message, maybe it's the marketing message, maybe it's just the discussion in online circles kind of got lost in the noise for Half-Life Alyx, because since they have the reputation, the perception a lot of people had was, oh, you need a really powerful PC and you need one of these fancy headsets to play it. And again, part of what I was trying to go out and do in that video is like, not really. Like if you look at the minimum requirements of it, most gaming PCs in the last 5 or 6 years are probably going to run it okay. And even the most basic headset is probably going to run it okay as well. So but I think that of course it's on Valve's best interest to sell as many index sets as possible. But I think the discourse could have been better if the fact that the game was so accessible in a wide array of systems had been in the forefront of the narrative from the start, rather than you need all this PC Master Race stuff.
Because I mean, they did a great job on making all the headsets run on this system. I think Mixed Reality was the last one they worked on, and they like fine-tuned that. So every headset you use for that game just works on its own way, in its unique way. But also the problem is, as a consumer, if you were Googling, hey, I want to get a headset, and you first got this whole like machine of, oh, hey, you need a Valve Index, you need a Valve Index. People on the Steam was like, oh yeah, Valve Index, because Valve makes game, Valve makes headset, I need to play. That's the combination. And as a consumer, you can completely get lost in what PC VR headset should I use. And then, you know, on your channel, people who are consumers can then find out about that. I think in the VR scene, we are so much about, well, I mean, Valve Index, man, this is like the must, like this is it, right? But then outside of that, it was hard to really find the information on how can I play this the cheapest way, but then still have a great time, you know?
Yeah, in fact, I think, ironically, it seems that VR is moving to a space where the low end, which is Quest 2, is sort of becoming the dominant platform, which is extraordinarily ironic, which I think ironically might work. In fact, I just saw a comment in the chat, which I see very typically, especially in my videos, which is minimum requirements is not the way one should experience VR. Which spoiler alert, I disagree with it. I'm the LowSpecGamer. That's not much of a surprise. But for games maybe like the Climb 2 that you were mentioning, which are games that are made for eye candy, which are it's a CryEngine game, maybe differently. But for games like Half-Life Alyx, which I will argue are a lot more about the mood and the experience that they are about the graphics themselves, and just the graphics are a vehicle for that experience. I think for a lot of the interesting stuff on VR, what matters is being able to touch the stuff, being able to manipulate the world around you. And if you can pull that in graphics that look like Pistol Whip, then great. Which seems to be the thing that's going to happen more and more, simply because, like, looking at what's happening with the Climb 2, I think Quest 2 is just, it looks from the outside that is dominating the market so thoroughly that for a lot of developers, they see the numbers and they're like, we're not even going to bother to like polish something for PC because it's going to bring more work than revenue.
You're totally right. And although we don't have official numbers on Quest 2 sales. The indications are in the millions. But also like connecting them to Steam, like you said, to play PC VR content. And I think the Steam numbers from the latest Steam VR hardware survey was 20% of all Steam VR users are using a Quest 2.
That's insane.
Yeah.
But as you said, like you have been using mixed reality a lot. Would you still recommend a mixed reality headset now to people who want to get into PC VR?
Depends on the price of a Quest 2 in whatever country's person is checking. If you find it for like half the price of a Quest 2, I would say go for it. If you're finding it for close to the price of a Quest 2, no way.
And that's interesting because, obviously, having seen your video, you got the concerns about the Facebook logging requirement. And it's something that we talked about as well before the show even started. And I think it's one of those things that, from the enthusiast perspective, those ingrained in the VR community, in this VR bubble, I would say a lot of people were obviously upset about the Facebook integration. But when it sort of released, it transpired that a lot of the wider sort of gaming community and wider community than that just didn't really care. And they were just happy to roll with it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a price to pay for that cost, for that entry cost. And as much as a lot of the enthusiast people in anything that has to do with technology are wary of logging into anything with Facebook, Facebook is still like a platform that is used by millions of people who don't care about posting their whole lives there. So it's not like it's a dark web website, even if arguably it could be worse. But the point, it's most of the market probably doesn't care as much as we do, which is a shame. And this is why I really, really, really hope console VR starts to catch up, because that could be like the middle ground that we so desperately need.
Yeah, and maybe with HTC doing something, and although like we discussed earlier, it might be a more expensive headset, that lack of requirement of a social platform to log into it with might be attractive enough to spend that extra $100, $200 to use that headset instead, right?
It might be for a very specific enthusiast market, but for mass market, it's a hard sell. Yeah.
So other than Pistol Whip, what are your other favorite games that you would enjoy on your Quest 2? Any other things that you've really enjoyed?
I will have to boot it up to check, but I used to play a lot of Beat Saber just as an exercise activity. Curiously enough, I started Vader Immortal, and I really liked the first chapter, and then I kind of lost myself in the second chapter. It's
typical.
A lot of games of that category have a lot of the feeling of being so linear that you don't quite engage with them in ways that you want.
But it's not like it's not really for the gamer, right? It's more for the people who kind of want to be a gamer from time to time. Yeah.
It feels too much as an interactive experience rather than than what you expect from something you're paying game money to play. But I don't know. I was pleasantly surprised by what's the name of the multiplayer one that comes free, Echo VR, I think. Echo Arena.
Gorilla Tag.
Echo Arena, Gorilla Tag. No, it's only Gorilla Tag.
I was pleasantly surprised by it, not only because I wouldn't think like a multiplayer VR experience will work that well initially, but also because of the tactile that all of you are probably used to it at this point, but I still have issues with smooth locomotion. Like it still makes me motion sick, and I know it's a thing that you sort of improve upon. I played the Half-Life Alyx, the entirety of it with teleport. I just couldn't handle it, the smooth locomotion. And I think Echo VR was the first game that actually helped me a little bit get that a little bit better, because since you're using your hands to grab stuff and move, this sort of tactile feedback made it better, at least for me. But it's tricky. I definitely should spend more time with it. I have spent the last 2 months moving, so that probably has affected my ability to play VR games. But
Sorry, go on.
but I'm already trying to keep an eye on news of more stuff imported. I have been meaning to play the freaking Pistol Whip campaign since they announced that campaign was released for
So
a
good.
million years. Is
It's
it
so
really
good.
good?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes,
God.
it's very good.
I need
Yeah,
to get into
it's
it.
free. It won't take you very long to finish it, but you'll have a great time doing it, especially if you like 80s action movies. You'll love it. Loads of references to that kind of stuff.
So what kind of like locomotion method do you think would be a great solution for a more mainstream audience?
I think a lot of people are just going to have to get started on teleport until people get used to it. So thinking about it this way, it comes with, there's this concept of gaming that people call gaming literacy. And as gamers have become more mainstream and they have more gotten used to certain things in games, games take less time explaining things. To put an example, if you play a game from the GameCube or Nintendo 64 era, every game is going to explain how the camera works. Jump to the future and you play Breath of the Wild, which Nintendo has a tendency to over-explain everything, and it doesn't really stop to explain how a 3D camera works because it's already part of the gaming literacy. It's an assumed thing that people already understand how a 3D camera works. I think it's going to be a little bit with that on VR. When you boot VR for the first time, it's like, oh, this is how you teleport, this is how you do your thing, and you try smooth locomotion and you get motion sick. But jump a few years into the future where more people have gotten used to the idea of smooth locomotion, and I think it's going to become the standard. It just requires a higher level of literacy among just the gaming public in general.
So what would you say, in your opinion, is the biggest sort of problem with VR right now? You mentioned lack of recognizable content on the platform, which is something, I think they're trying to address, obviously, like you said, with the Star Wars games, etc. Any other big problems in the industry that you think could make it better for newcomers coming on board?
So I think the lack of recognizable titles is just part of a bigger problem, which is, to me, is the problem, which is the barrier, the generalized barrier of entry. So when I usually, in my video, and videos that I make in the past, I still always say like, $400, or it's fantastic for what it is, or whatever price point is at this point, but it's still too much for a casual consumer to jump in. And usually the reaction that I get from people online is like, people spend more on an iPhone every year. Like, it's not really that much money. But the difference there is that if you buy a new phone, from day zero, you know what you're going to do with that phone. And you're going to be all day with that freaking phone. Like, there's no surprises there. While for a lot of people, it's like, hey, I might buy this VR headset, but I have no clue if I'm going to play it for 10 minutes or 10 years. Like, it's a gamble. And to overcame that barrier of entry, the cost either needs to be low enough that people are willing to take the risk, and if it doesn't work, it's no biggie, or the experiences of others they know and the experiences that they have heard are waiting on them on the other side are high enough that they are willing to do it, to just jump and know it is going to be fun. When you still search news of VR, it's that way. There's still issues about people thinking that they're going to get motion sick. That's why I keep mentioning the recognizable titles, because if there's something that is big enough on the other side, more people are willing to get the ball rolling, and eventually, when more people are used to seeing their friends on VR, it becomes less of an emotional cost to engage into it, because the devices are already cheap enough for most people to get into it. Right now, the real cost is emotional. It's this idea that you don't know if it's going to be a waste purchase. So it just requires the right combination of titles and the right combination of audiences to overcome that emotional boundary and just get people started on it.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things we've talked about for a long time is, making video content around VR. You can only show so much on a flat video. And one of the things with VR is you really have to try it. And it's like that moment that you had when you had the Windows MR headset delivered to the hotel, and next thing you know, you're stuck in there hours when you should be preparing for something else because you've had this wow moment. Your mind has been blown. You finally understand. And even though you may have seen many videos about it before, you finally understand, it clicks in your mind, oh, this is what VR is all about. And I think the problem is, and especially now in an age of COVID, it's so difficult to demo VR to people and get them to try it. And I think trying to convince people, you need to try it, you need to jump on board with that $300 price tag is a difficult sell. And I think you're probably hitting the nail on the head with more recognizable content that they can say, oh, this is Call of Duty, but in VR. Do you know what I mean? But we don't necessarily have that right now, I don't think.
It's getting there because the design. It's easy to lose perspective, but if you look at VR games 5 years, were there even VR games 5 years in the past? I might have gone too far. But if you look at more earlier VR games from a design perspective, developers were still figuring out this thing. And if you play VR games right now, it's very obvious that they started to figure out just design conventions that make it work. That's, I think, why I was excited from an industry level for Half-Life Alyx, because I wanted everyone to copy the hell out of that game, because that game did a lot of things from a design perspective that just make VR work. And it's not just the impact of the game, but I just wanted every indie to just take notes on it, to be like what Super Mario 64 did for 3D games, which everyone was like, so that's a way to do it that kind of works. And just everyone copies that model.
Yeah, I totally get your point and I think you mentioned this in your video as well, that it's kind of like an indie market right now. And I think that is great for indie developers because I think it's a great opportunity for them to shine. And we've certainly seen that, particularly on the Quest platform with many developers making millions in revenue now, which is great for the industry and great for them. So yeah, like, you know, I lost my track of thought where I was going with that, but
yeah, but it needs involvement from the big guys eventually.
Yeah, you're right.
To attract the big marketing money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I still think that like sometimes you see big guys step in. Sometimes it goes really well, but sometimes it also goes completely wrong where they have the IP. Like for example, Medal of Honor, I thought was an okay-ish game, but some indies have made better shooters, you know, have made better mechanics, know how to do it. But it's of course the bigger studios, they have investors that they have to satisfy. They have, of course, for example, that was with Oculus, they paid them to make a game, so they have a certain idea of what they want. So it gets, you know, like indies are kind of free to a certain degree to kind of do what they want to do.
But it does feel like you have like more and more studios like kind of stepping in. We have like, you know, the Assassin's Creed games that are being made. We have you know, Ubisoft has stepped in a couple of times already. We have Rockstar that might actually be, you know, making something new as well, and they've already done LA Noire in VR as well. So, you know, you have those like, I mean, it's of course it's a gradual process. Nobody is going to, you know, step in like, you know, head first and see whatever happens because of course, you know, they have, you know, quota to meet. But you know, you see this happening, and you know, Crytek has been one of those studios who's actually been doing it from the beginning. Testing out small things. Ubisoft has done that as well with like, you know, was it Eagle Flight? You know, that's one of those games that I believe was from Ubisoft. So you have those like studios like stepping in, you know, dipping their toes in the water, seeing what happens. We've seen it with Resident Evil, where you have those like big games that get like a VR mode. Star Wars Squadrons had that as well. You know, I think that's a right strategy for a lot of business, just to see, you know, how popular is this? What are the numbers on this? Get some data on that, and then see what works and see what doesn't work. And then indeed, like, let the indies figure it out. Like we had a great conversation with Danny from Cloudhead Games, which is one of probably the first developers ever to, you know, to start experimenting in VR. And a lot of the things that he's done, like I'm 100% sure that a lot of developers said like, oh, now I get it. Now I need to do it like this. Big developers, small developers, all, but it's like, it's always going to be the indies who's going to be, you know, pushing the frontier a little bit, you know, testing out things that work and things that don't.
Yeah,
true.
And what I'm really hoping for, at least for the near future, is that a lot of that expertise can be exported, in the sense that if Ubisoft comes and they want to, hey, let's do an Assassin's Creed game in VR, and they get their usual design teams and they're trying to figure out how to get the formula working on VR, that's not going to work as well as if they go to an existing indie studio with proven experience in VR and they're like, here, we can maybe license Assassin's Creed to you, and then you know how VR works. Maybe come up with a concept rather than trying to adapt something
I mean,
else.
that's happened. That's what happened to you know, Doom 3. You know, they let someone who has the experience make the part. And while you know, Bethesda tried to make Doom VFR, that wasn't really Doom. It looked like Doom, but it didn't really play like Doom. And this, what they now made, actually looks and plays like Doom. So I totally agree with you. Like, combine that, or maybe have, you know, the existing team work with a VR team and let them, because as you said, like having to start from scratch to like think like, how does VR work? You can get the wrong idea and totally make something that doesn't work. And especially with an Assassin's Creed or Splinter Cell, where there are certain mechanics that make those games so classic. You just want to nail those.
It comes with risk, obviously, but I imagine a lot of indie studios work with budgets that are considerably smaller than what AAA in console games get. Assign them a small budget, license them, developing to them, because I think the problem with what they have seen, and I'm thinking maybe on Star Wars and stuff like that, is if you get experienced VR developers, but you still give them the concept of what they're going to do, it's not going to work, because VR is so different from a design perspective that it just doesn't adapt. If you give them the license and then you let the developer team come up with the concept of how to use that license, I think I'm really hoping that it just happens once and someone nails it, and it becomes a gold rush and everyone tries to do the same, because that's how usually tends to work.
Well, especially if they get the creative freedom, because we have seen so many examples, like the Jurassic World game is a great example from CodeSync. I mean, you have the IP, you have all those movies, you have all those other games that came out, but then you see they're kind of restricted in what they can do, because the IP they get doesn't come with just the IP, but also, okay, but you're only allowed to do this, or we already have an idea. And this idea comes from people who have never tried VR before, you know? Well, someone who tried VR would say, oh, I want to get chased by a T-Rex because that's what I saw in the movie, and that's that one game that I once played, you know?
And the studio that I think really gets that is, again, it comes to Valve. If you see like what Valve has done for Half-Life Alyx and the implementation of like, you know, their finger models, they hired Zulubo, which is someone who's made a VR game by himself, pretty much, made Vertigo, and you know, it was a huge success, and Valve recognized that kind of talent and brought him on board in order to work on an aspect at least that got implemented into Half-Life Alyx, which I think is a great tactic, that you see like these like big studios, you know, hiring a VR dev studio or an indie person like working on VR for quite a while, who understands a certain aspect, and let that collaboration start.
Yeah, I think the problem with Valve is, though, that as we know, is they do things on their own time scale.
Of course,
you know,
of course.
Like when we will see a next VR game from them, I have no idea.
And you know, Half-Life Alyx wasn't necessarily for them to just sell. It was just to show that they know how to make games. They wanted to make the most high-end experience that was out there.
But regardless, it pushed the industry again. Like the kind of tech that they show, like in VR and interaction and hand models and all of that stuff.
I mean,
and
they created a game that could launch in, like, let's say 2025 and still be the next level VR game we were all waiting for. So they were ahead of their time, you know.
But it's like the analogy that Alex gave about making the Mario 64 that changes the game. I think that is what Half-Life Alyx is, but we just haven't seen the succession of that just yet. I'm sure it'll come in time, but you know, it's just a question of time.
So Alex, do you have any tips for people who want to keep their frame rates high, their temperatures low in terms of VR? I mean, is there some tricks that you learned that are easy to get into? And it's like, okay, this is just one mistake that people make.
So, wow, it's hard to synthesize it on just one thing. But what I will say is, this might be controversial, but finding ways of locking your frame rates in your headset works very well. I can't remember what was the refresh rate in the Windows Mixed Reality that I have, but I remember that if you find ways of locking the frame rate under that and just forcing the driver to use like a lower refresh rate, you get used to it. Like, I know people always get on me when I say this sort of thing, and it's like, no, you need the high refresh rate because otherwise you get motion sick. Maybe I'm just resistant to motion sick, but I have been able to play on what seems like alarmingly low refresh rates in VR with no big complications.
It's like a slideshow just that you're watching, like, you know those things get to like
frames
click
per second,
like, and you see like, get like the next frame
for next frame. And just play the Steam VR toolkit has the resolution scale thing that you can play around with. And people, I mean, games like Star Wars Squadrons just naturally already use a very low internal resolution. And you see it initially, you're like, wow, this looks so blurry. And an hour later, you forget about it. So you will be surprised just how much your brain gets used to it. So I will say, don't be afraid of trying VR in a lower resolution. A lot of people have the attitude of being like, oh, it's not the real experience and I don't want to ruin it for me. for a lot of games, it doesn't really matter. Even for games like Half-Life Alyx, I will argue that the game's still pretty freaking good because of the way how it feels.
Yeah. And I think as well, like a common mistake, particularly when using Oculus headsets, is that people don't realize that there's settings in the Oculus dashboard that you can adjust in terms of resolution and super sampling. And when you connect it to Steam VR at the same time, that those two settings stack.
Yeah.
So if you're setting them both, you're like stacking them double. So bear that in mind, and that can help you with your frame rates as well. But to maybe round this up and sort of give you a final question, do you ever see yourself working in VR with gaming aside? Do you ever see that as a thing, like productivity in VR? Could you see yourself editing videos and stuff like that in the future and that kind of thing?
When Oculus was showing their ultra futuristic like office in VR sort of thing, I remember seeing it and thinking like I will if this is a tech that actually work well and integrated with Windows, and I could I don't know which software you guys specifically used to edit, but I work with my editor works in Premiere, but I do the main putting together in DaVinci Resolve. And every time I'm editing, I kind of wish I was in VR and I could just like extend the freaking timeline and be like, okay, this is the big preview, so I can do proper like masking and stuff, and not just in this monitor. But it's like, oh, you just buy an ultra wide. It's not the same. Like I wish I could imagine if the monitor was infinite and I could just grab the ends of my DaVinci timeline and stretch it as much as I need to
360 timeline, that never ends.
Exactly. Yeah. The timeline of the video never ends.
Around you.
I will freaking love doing that.
Nice.
Okay, well,
so you're on board with productivity in VR in the future?
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome.
Nice.
So should we see if we've got any questions for Alex? In the chat.
Let's see. I haven't really seen that much. Someone said Gen 1 Windows Mixed Reality had a low spec mode that runs at 60 hertz.
Yes, that is correct.
Is it named after you or?
No,
a low spec Alex mode.
I wish.
Yeah.
Low frame rates can often give you headaches due to stutter, and the motion doesn't seem real. Yeah, kinda, but you're surprised how often you get used to it. It's like the
your brain does a great job at filling in the frames.
Yeah. It's like the experience of, oh, you're used to 60 FPS and try now playing 30 FPS on a console. Yeah, it bothers you for an hour or two, and then you get used to it and forget about it.
Have you ever tried like 144 hertz on an index before, Alex?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I can tell that story, but I did that in the living room of Linus Tech Tips.
Oh wow, nice! Like nice flex there, dude.
Yeah, exactly. That's a weird flex, but we went to eat at his house after LTX, and he was like, "Do you want to try an index?" I'm like, "Sure." And we tried Gorm. I think that was fun.
That's brave of him to let you play Gorm in his living room. You take the headset off, you destroyed his house.
I came tantalizingly close to causing YouTube drama twice. I'm glad it didn't happen.
It's interesting how like Linus has been also kind of part of the VR scene with his reviews, But I remember, what was it, like the Oculus Quest 2? It took a while for him to, review it? And then he apologized, first of all, for not recognizing the headset. But it's interesting how he has also been looking at VR, like the bigger, let's say, tech YouTubers have also a certain history with VR, and you can't blame them, because the thing is, as I said before, researching stuff about VR and not having tried it is hard, like with a phone, like you tried a phone many times before, like you could just read on paper what it's all about and you know what to expect. But with VR, like even with every new headset that comes out, you need to try it. Even that you tried VR already, you need to try the next one first.
Yeah,
I'm still surprised we haven't seen any content from Marquez about VR yet.
About VR,
yeah, because
with Apple, he's definitely gonna do it. But
he regularly wears a Vive headset, and we often see. I think someone did post a picture of a Quest 2 in the background once, so he's totally trying.
Well, he was always wearing his Vive shirt.
That's
like he did an interview with Elon Musk. He's wearing a Vive shirt. He's reviewing a car. He's wearing a Vive shirt. I'm like, okay, yeah. Well, with Apple, maybe. Who knows?
One day, I'm sure. So yeah, that was a little chat with our friend Alex from LowSpecGamer. Thank you very much for joining us on the show. Really, really appreciate it. And I think, your perspective on the industry is pretty spot on, really, from everything you've said. We need sort of more recognizable high-end games because it is software, after all, that sells hardware, in terms of consoles. It's exclusive game titles that bring people in. So more recognizable content would certainly help the industry. But, we're getting there slowly but surely, nevertheless. So now let's talk about more games. Nathan's going to give us a lowdown on what we can expect to come to our headsets next week.
I'm a little nervous because Zim said make
high
me proud.
And
make me proud, boy.
I was like, what does that mean? Does it mean that I have to show all these shitty games or all the good games that you usually show? I wasn't sure if I had to go one way or the other,
Let's try with the good ones.
Yeah, no, we have a lot of good ones. I didn't really find that many bad ones. It's a shame, right? Like I finally get to do it. And then I'm really try-harding to find something. Let me just start with one that didn't make it to this list, but I still want to mention. Okay. And that was this lava game, and where you have to escape lava. It's like a parkour game where you had to escape lava. It was on the Oculus Rift store. I was like, I need to go on there to find something that is kind of obscure. And I did find that, but it wasn't worth promoting, to be honest, but I still did it anyway. So the developer can thank me later. I just don't know the title. It's something Lava VR Runner or Escape.
Lava Escape.
Lava Escape
while
Runner.
You talk about the next one.
Sure, you buy it while I'm going to go to the next one. Okay, so first of all, we have a hand tracking experience, and this might sound strange, but this hand tracking experience is called First Steps. Now, First Steps is pretty much the showcase for what's possible on the Quest 1 and Quest 2. It's like an introduction to what you can do with VR. But since this week, you can now play it with hand tracking as well. And it works. It works. I tried it. It's easy to get into. And this makes it even, let's say this rounds up the ecosystem even more, that you can use almost everything with hand tracking, including the demo that, I don't know, does First Step still come with the Quest? I think it came with the Quest 1. Does it also come with the Quest 2? Is it pre-installed on the headset?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, you can now play it with hand tracking. And as I said, it's a showcase. You can dance with the little robot with your hands. It's more of like they added some support to it, but as you may know, the robot mimics your moves. It doesn't do that with hand tracking, so it does work, but you can't really see your hands in mirror mode because that would be very performance heavy. Maybe Alex would be able to create some potato hands instead, but I don't know. So you can do that. You can also use the shooting range with your hands and use the table full of toys with your hands, control the Zeppelin, things like that. I still think it's a great demo. It's amazing. So, Mike, you have anything to say about the lava thing? Or
I have plenty to say.
Okay, sure, go for it.
So, Lava Escape Mine is available on the Oculus Store for Rift. Yeah. And it's also available on Steam VR. Wow. It released, literally this week on Oculus. It's been out a little while on Steam. Only 2 reviews.
2 reviews, okay.
The synopsis says, escape the volcanic mine. Red hot magma is now pouring into the underground mining complex. And basically, you've got to solve puzzles as lava is slowly creeping in, setting fire to everything.
Sounds like a hot game to me.
Let's see what the review says.
I'll leave myself
Highly
out.
recommend it. Test your problem-solving skills. It has some stressful parts, but you will enjoy it. Remember to always pay attention to the audios and follow the instructions. There you go.
Oh, yeah. Instructions are very important. No, but it is scary to get chased by something. I remember having to escape the Titanic with the water coming until your neck or to your mouth. And you're like, oh, I'm going to drown. And I'm sure you're going to have the same kind of vibe with that. But yeah, thank you, Mike, for promoting it even more. It is an interesting concept for sure. Anyways, the next hand tracking, because there were 2 hand tracking experiences that dropped. We also have Tiny Castles. I should say First Steps is free, of course. First Steps is free, and it's the same for Tiny Castles. It's also free. So this is a top-down action puzzle game in where you play as a powerful god. The game's objective is simple: free your believers, Mike. So it's kind of like, your subscribers, you need to free them, okay?
They've been held captive by the algorithm.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. From the evil god and his minions, and advance forward to destroy the obelisk, which powers the evil in this world. So that's kind of what it's all about. This was, as far as I know, made by Oculus. It was to kind of test out the hand tracking capabilities. It's on AppLab Games, funny enough. So they kind of put their own game on AppLab too. Yeah, maybe it's because they think like this is maybe a bit too much for the consumers right now to try. So it's kind of hidden away for now.
Yeah, it's a bit like I tried it this week. It's a bit like a tech demo. It's got like a few levels you can try.
So it's maybe not worthy for the main story, you would say, or?
I think it has a potential, like if they develop it further. The concept is certainly interesting. The interactions with the world using your hands are pretty great, actually. And the hands are very, very detailed, and they look great when you look down and move them and wiggle your fingers. It feels really cool. So highly recommend you go check it out. It's on AppLab for free, of course.
So going back to that lava thing, something that just came up in my mind is that if you could combine Gorilla Tag with this mine escape thing, you could escape with your friends as gorillas while the lava is coming after you. I think that would be amazing, right?
That would be pretty cool if the lava was rising throughout the level and you had to jump up from branch to branch, but still catch people and infect them. Yeah.
You guys thought I was going to say something stupid, but actually it's pretty legit.
Well, yeah.
Really good idea.
We'll pass it on.
That's why Alex is in here. So he actually, I got at least one person that believes in me. Then we have The Climb 2. What a surprise. On the Quest. $30 and €30. Well, usually Mike and Zim throw in the pounds. I don't know how many pounds it is because I do not live in the England city. But tell me more.
$22.99 in British pounds.
Damn. Well, you're fast. This was somewhere in your mind.
It was etched into my brain.
Impressive, most impressive. So yeah, The Climb 2. We already spoke about this. You know, it's a climbing game, an extreme sports game. Where you can explore many beautiful environments. And if you want to know our review of that, just go back a little bit in the podcast and catch up with that. Then we have Warplanes World War I Fighters. In this game, you immerse yourself in World War I aerial combat like never before in a captivating VR experience. No matter whether you prefer arcade games or flight simulators, a variety of options will let you adjust the game to your preferences. So that's interesting. So you can play it, with like these crazy simulations going on, or go a little bit casual. It's almost like a flight simulator, right? Where you could also kind of choose to play like a noob, like a dummy. Like you're like Mike flies in this game with his dummy book still in his hands, reading all the papers, and the plane just flies for him.
Autopilot, you mean?
Yeah. Okay. Autopilot.
But yeah, this game, like it released obviously this week, and it's been getting some really good reviews. People are really enjoying it. It's got motion controller support, although they're thinking about adding HOTAS support in the future. But yeah, this one looks like a lot of fun. I'm going to try this out this week. So if I do, I'll let you know what I think.
It's cool that they have those old planes that have like the open cockpit. I think that's always awesome to see that.
Also, there's a version of this
game again.
Warplanes. Yeah.
World War I Fighters.
Yeah. This is also available on SideQuest for Quest.
That's my job to say. So it's on SideQuest.
Sorry, you go. I don't want to step on your toes.
And sorry, I'm not done yet. No, so there's a free demo on Steam that you can download, so you can try this. So that's very nice. Demos are always welcome. I wish we had more of those. And it's on Steam. You can buy it for $10. €12. Again, pounds, no idea. I'm sorry. I'm from Europe, so €12. There you go.
I saw someone in the chat mentioning that it's also available on itch.
Oh, it's also on itch. Wow, we're really going deep with this.
You buy it through itch, but it's available through SideQuest.
You happen to know if it has like HOTAS support?
It doesn't, but they're planning it for the future.
Okay. I think I'm going to buy this because this looks like airplanes, but what I had with Star Wars, and I love that idea. Yeah.
Like the dogfighting and stuff is supposed to be really cool. Pretty good reviews on Steam so far. Yeah.
Some people in the chat say that this should come to the official store. Well, there's a lot we want to come to the official store of the Quest, but it's good to hear that this is a PC VR title and a standalone title. Then this is my favorite of today's show. And this is where I'm going to make Zim very proud. Jim Barnaby, shout out to you. This game is called Laid Back Camp Virtual Lake Motosu. That's right. And I don't know why they put virtual in the title, but maybe to make sure that it's a virtual game, right?
Oh God.
Yeah. So together with, my Japanese is not so good, okay? Together with Nadeshiko and Rin embark on a new camping adventure at Lake Motusu, taking pictures and trying lots of delicious food. Set near scenic Mount Fuji, Nadeshiko, Rin, and others encounter a variety of unique situations. Join them for a short 3D adventure game. Each version is about the length of an anime episode. Does anyone know how long an anime episode is usually?
Depends on the anime.
Yeah, this is very specific, I know. But there's this vibrant scenery that you can just chill in and just have a great time. Like just camp in VR. And honestly, the trailer looks great. I'm curious. Yeah, it looks kind of cute. I know, right? So I'm very curious to try this, to be honest. It looks amazing to just sit there, chill, relax, be in an anime yourself, right?
Have some ramen noodles.
Yeah, you can eat ramen noodles too. Yeah, you can eat delicious food. I have not tried this, so based on the story, it sounds amazing. I'll give it a try for sure. Actually,
we look forward to your full review next week.
Well, that's a bit too fast. You get a little bit too excited, but I'll try it. I'll see what I can do, Mike.
Nice.
So this one is not free, sadly. This one is for sale on Steam for $24.
Wow.
And that translates to around 20 euros. Yes. What do you guys think about this one?
No.
According to reviews,
No?
it's
Not my
about
kind of
an
thing.
hour long. I'm fine with that.
An hour long.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, like you can't really camp in real life now, so why don't you just do it this way?
I think I just want to jump in my warplane, to be honest.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah.
$24 for a holiday is cheap, Mike. Don't underestimate it. So then we
Come
have.
on. Tell
Holiday
me you
for the
have
mind.
never dreamed of camping out with an anime girl. Come on.
Not when
I
they're
can
like
honestly say I
14.
haven't actually. I can honestly say I haven't. Flying a World War fighter though, maybe.
Yeah.
Everyone in the chat just judged me so hard.
Yeah, so I should also say that this one is also an app lab, so you can play this one on the Quest too.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's right. Interesting. Now you're getting interested, Mike, because you can take your headset outside and replicate that feeling of imagine Mike sitting in front of his house with his little coffee with his headset on
in a virtual tent,
and people are like, "What the heck is this guy doing?" He's like, "Here's my girlfriend. Here's my girlfriend." He's like putting his hand around his virtual girlfriend that is not there.
All right, let's move on.
Sad. Okay, okay. Let's move on. Let's move on to. I think it's called Z Race. And this is one that you can experience a new generation of racing in. It's a high-octane VR arcade racer bursting with sleek, futuristic, spaceships, I would say. And high-speed zero gameplay is in there. It has an intense, vibrant soundtrack to really get your heart pumping. And you can even upgrade your racing ship if you want to, and then rocket up to the global leaderboards. As far as I know, Gamertag VR, our YouTube colleague, has his own ship in there, so that's kind of lit.
Everyone does.
Everyone does.
Yeah, VR 365. Material Wood, I think. Cousin Cherry.
The whole gang.
Is your ship in there?
No, my ship is not. Is your ship in there?
No.
No. Well, we're missing out apparently.
Apparently so.
This reminds me a bit of Wipeout and reminds me of some other fast games too. This must be amazing on 144 hertz for sure. Haven't tried that yet. This one is on Steam for $15 and $12.50 in euros. Yes, so that's kind of cool. I do see these games pop up a lot. Like every year we seem to get a new one. But this is the newest one in the lineup. Then we have Firepoint. This was a suggestion by Mike himself. It's free on the PlayStation VR. It's the only platform where you can play this on, by the way.
Yeah.
It sounded like I was going to say, but it's not free on. No, it's free on PlayStation if you have a PlayStation subscription, right?
Yeah, PlayStation Plus. Yeah.
PlayStation
nice.
Plus. So you can try it out. You can't play this without an aim controller, right?
No, I don't think so. So, especially now, like if you're considering getting PSVR 2 in the future and you're a PS Plus member, just add it to your library and then you've got a game to play when the new headset
This is a great
drops.
game as well. I really
game.
like this game. Fantastic
Great
story,
with the aim controller.
great visuals, a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I think the reason why they are doing it now is because they want people to get familiar with that game before they release their new ones. This is a smart way of kind of getting people hooked. Then Then last but not least, and this one, I was going onto the Rift store and I found the lava game and I found some other things, but I was really expecting to find just a lot of disappointing things. But
You weren't disappointed with the lava?
No, I wasn't no, I was actually pretty surprised by that one.
Okay.
But it's not the best one I found. I found a game that was drawing me in. It has a beautiful art style. It's very, very unique. And I just had to mention it here. It's called Curious Alice. And this is a VR experience that invites you to tumble down the rabbit hole, dive deeper down the rabbit hole, as I always say. It sounds like a quote of mine, and explore a fantastical world. Follow your own personal white rabbit companion to find missing objects, solve the caterpillar's mind-bending riddles in a psychedelic mushroom field. Hey, that sounds like something I once did in Amsterdam. Visit the Queens of Hearts garden and experience more classic moments from this legendary tale. So this one is on the Oculus Rift store. And I don't know about you all, but it looks cool. I love the art style. It's like some kind of drawing. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. I don't know if it's any good in terms of gameplay. It does look a little bit basic, but this is something that I just wanted to show off because these are kind of like the games that no one really talks about. But I was like, okay, so this is something different.
There's a bit at the start of the last game in the trailer, which it's probably a one-off thing, but it's something that I kind of wish someone would build an entire mechanic around because it seems that you drink something from a bottle and you become very small, like Alice in Wonderland.
You should try a fisherman's tale.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay. It has that mechanic.
Yeah, the entire game is based around that. Like, not that you specifically drink something, but it plays really well with scale.
Yes, that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a Inception, like a world within a world.
Yeah,
it's very trippy. You'd really enjoy it. A Fisherman's
You'll
Tale.
like that one.
Yeah.
If you like that stuff.
And it's on my wish list. Perfect.
Yeah. So this one is
available on Quest as well.
Ooh, yeah. It's good.
Yes. So this one is, as I said, on the Oculus Rift store. It's only $5, €5. So if you think, hey, this has potential, you want to support the developer who just published a game on a platform that no one seems to really use anymore, please support them. Really, I'm serious because this looked really awesome. So there you go. Those are the releases. Hopefully,
nice.
Do you think Jim or Zim? What is his name again?
I think he would be proud.
I think he'll be proud.
Yeah.
Cool.
Wow.
Good job.
That means a lot. Thank you.
Well done, Nathan. Well done.
Yeah.
So if you've got any very burning last-minute questions, then chuck them in the chat now, just while I recap the details of the show, and then we'll say goodbye for this week. So just a reminder, this is a weekly VR, AR, and MR talk show, live streamed every Saturday on YouTube and Twitch. The show goes live at 7 p.m. in Europe, 6 p.m. in the UK, and 12 midday in Central US. You can also check out the audio version, which is available on Spotify, iTunes, and SoundCloud. If you enjoyed the show, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, which 6,000 of you have done now, which we want to say thank you very much for as well.
Oh, 6,000?
Yeah.
Are we going to do a giveaway now?
Sure. What are you going to give away?
My Rec Room.
Your Rec Room mug? Okay, cool. Nice. We also want to say thanks to Val for sponsoring the show, and of course to Alex for joining us as well. We really appreciate it. It's been fun chatting to you and getting your perspective on the VR industry. Let's see if we've got any questions. Everyone's saying they're proud of you, Nathan, which is good.
Yeah, that's nice to hear.
Yeah.
We have a tough crowd, and I'm always a little bit scared that they would judge me, but sounds like I'm lucky.
Yeah. So we're going to round up the show. We'll obviously be back next week. Hopefully we've got some news from HTC about this new teased headset. That would be really cool to talk about on next week's show. So we hope you have a good week in VR. Until then, take care of yourselves, and bye-bye for now. See you later.
Yep. Bye.